What is going on, everyone? How you doing? How you be? Hope everybody had a very happy Easter weekend. Opening weekend for NHL playoffs. What a weekend it was. Les, how the hell are you doing today, brother?
Happy to be done with the fat food and the chocolate eggs and the mini eggs. I dominated them. Absolutely dominated them. So really good weekend watching hockey. It was really nice having the game set at alternate times. So one kind of flew into the other. Little background noise there while we're saying grace, and then Austin Matthews is lighting the lamp. Or it was Mitchie on the breakaway. It was awesome.
Yeah, it sure was. I definitely got some looks from the fam just kind of disappearing from the table, one eye over on all the games. Unfortunately for me, we had an early dinner, which turned into an early disaster down in Carolina. I was getting a lot of chirps from the background. Hey, why are you still watching this shit? Didn't Devils realize that they were fucking playing today? Ugly game one for my boys. But
can you get a match penalty for slashing your own player? Because if you can, Markstrom could be suspended indefinitely.
Anything that could have went wrong in that game, 1,000% went wrong.
Not everything, Bernsey. We had your boy Lukey over 1.5 shots, and the backhand muffin got us to the promised land, which had me concerned considering they had 9 shots through 2 periods, and we have a shot prop on the card for the over. And I was getting concerned, but it worked out for the VIP members. They did cash that bet with Mr. Hughes getting the over on the shots. So not all bad.
I shot you a message early. Dude took a puck to the fucking face and goes down, and I'm like, we're toast. We're done. It's over. But what a grinder he is coming back out. Facing adversity, muffins from the point, doesn't ask how hard they are as long as they hit the goalie. So cash that 1.5 shots over on Luke Hughes. That was the only highlight of my 3:00 slot. That was it. It was all downhill from there. All right, enough about the fucking Devils. Jesus Christ. Moving on, we had a good game last night between the Sens and the Leafs. Leafs take game 1, a 6-2 victory. The big boys who were always criticized in Toronto found the score sheet. Mitchie Marner had a goal and an apple. Austin Matthews, 2 apples. Nylander, a goal and an apple. Tavares, a goal and an apple. Matty Nyes with a goal. To me, the real story of that game, it was 2 things. It was Stolarz, who was absolutely unreal, stopping 31 of 33. And the Sens just love the penalty box, penalty after penalty. Some of them, in my opinion, were a little soft, but it is what it is. You don't want to be going to that box with a power play like Toronto's got, and they made them pay for it.
100%. 3 power play goals in this one for the Leafs at home. That's tough to give up. You're in the box all night, and those games happened. It's a fast game. Things happen where you expose yourself and you make poor decisions as a player. Your emotions are a little bit higher. You're on the road. You're probably a little bit more nervous where you do a play and you're like, oh, man, what was I thinking doing that? Like, that's not my typical thing. I expect to see a different, more disciplined Sens team in game 2 because if they don't, this is going to be a quick series.
As lopsided as the score was, I didn't think it was really that much of a lopsided game. Allmark, Swiss cheese, brother. Very stoppable pucks got by him. But yeah, the Sens need to bounce back. He's got to fucking bounce back. We want that Battle of Ontario. We want to see some mitts get dropped. It got a little dicey and a little frisky there at the end of the game, setting up game 2. But we'll see if the Leafs are legit this year. And then we had the late game last night with the Wild losing to Vegas. This was a competitive game. I thought of all the series outside of New Jersey, this would probably be the most lopsided one. But the big boys from the Wild were back. Matt Boley had 2 goals, Kirill the Thrill 2 assists. But at the end of the day, it was really just special teams and depth scoring from Vegas that got him out into an early series lead. Brett Howden, 2 goals. That last one, he snuck in there with like 0.2 of a second on. He's coming off a career high with 23 goals this season. Hurdle got us started at first. He had his first, this was kind of shocking. It was his first multi-point game in a Golden Knight jersey, with a goal and an apple. He picked Faber's pocket, got it over Gus's shoulder.
Beauty shot.
It was time. I couldn't watch this game, but I watched the recap, but Minnesota will make this competitive. I don't think this is going to be a 4-game sweep.
I don't think so either. Minnesota is definitely an underrated team. And the fact that they stumbled quite a few different times during the season, people kind of written them off. But now you got some of your big guns back, some superstars back, and they're healthy. Well, they're saying that they're healthy. It doesn't mean they actually are. But you definitely need to get a little bit more out of the second and third line and the Wild. You need to get some numbers up on that third and fourth line. You got to get some depth scoring. Just like the other night, the Leafs, they also had some depth scoring with OEL scoring a goal, Prime in the slot. As bad as Allmark was, he also got kind of hung out to dry by his teammates. So if Minnesota wants to stay competitive in this league, they're going to have to start throwing the body some more. Vegas is a big team, and you need to lay these guys out. You need to finish every check, because that's when guys are going to make mistakes. They need to do a better job of getting traffic to the front of the net and getting the puck through that initial winger screen up top, and then hopefully you bang in a couple greasy ones, because it's true. Vegas is the more skilled team. So you have to counter that with a bigger effort, a higher work ethic, more traffic, more pucks to the net. And you look at Colorado the other night, a couple of their goals. You look at them like, holy man, how did that go? And the guy's falling, ends up kicking it in, and it goes top corner over Ottinger's shoulder. That's how you're going to win playoff games in the NHL.
It's not the time of year for the pretty ones, man. All these drop passes, all these stretch passes, from one side to the other. It's not what you need. You need to just fire the fucking puck on net and see where it goes, man. That's what happens in playoff time. But we're going to get right to it here. All right. We got your Montreal Canadiens walking into our nation's capital tonight, 7:00 on ESPN. It's an 8 seed versus a 1 seed. I'll start with the Caps, and then you tell me what Montreal has to do to get an upset here. We're talking about, the second highest scoring team in the league, 3.49 goals per game, an elite power play. Obviously, you got Ovi over there in his office. Power play is clicking at 23.5%. I know it's all about, this whole season is all about the Ovi goal chase, right? And rightfully so. Some amazing shit going on. But the Caps have not looked like that number one Eastern seed, as far as defensively goes. In the last 27 games, they've allowed 3.08. They do have a dominant home record of 26-9-6. The Canadiens tend to struggle on the road, but there's a major question mark walking into this game for the Caps as to who is in net. Have you seen any updates on Logan Thompson yet?
He's expected. He hasn't been confirmed yet. I'm kind of watching that closely before I release my card, because that could change a couple of things for me. So at this point, they haven't really announced.
All right, brother. I'm
expecting him to go. What's that? Sorry.
No, I was going to say, just give me a breakdown from the Canadiens. What do the Canadiens need to do to pull the upset for tonight? Is it possible?
It is, but it's not going to be easy. All right. Like you said, they're going up against one of the best teams at home, 26-9-6. But like you said, the Washington Capitals have stumbled the last little bit. They haven't won 2 games in a row since mid-March, believe it or not. And that's a long time to go without stringing a couple wins together. So if Montreal wants to be successful, they need to focus on the little things, the puck battles on the wall. You got to win those battles, and they got to cut out the cute shit in the offensive zone. This has got to be one of the smoothest looking teams to go and find that tic-tac-toe, backdoor, fake shot, pass, but that's not going to work. We've seen this against Chicago the other night, where I think they were kind of expecting to come in and walk all over Chicago, and it didn't happen. So if they want to get success against Washington, they are going to have some urgency to get shots on net. Over their last 10, they have won 7 out of 10, which is good. They had that scare where they almost didn't even get to the dance. And I think they deserve to because of how hot they have been. So you got arguably one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now going up against a team that seems like they're on an Ovechkin hangover, right? I'm sure there was some celebration to commemorate Ovechkin's big goal, and rightfully so. That's an impressive feat, but it's over. Get over it. Put it aside. The coaching staff of the Capitals need to get these guys back focused again. And I think Washington is feeling the pressure. Montreal is definitely holding the gun. Everyone's just happy to see Montreal in. If you're a Montreal fan, rightfully so. I know I sure am. And believe it or not, a lot of the experts and analysts out there have Montreal winning this series. So I don't think they're going to do it game one. They got a lot of young guys that haven't been here before. Washington is the more experienced team at home. It's a tough building to play in. They've had really terrible first periods where they're constantly giving up goals. So if you're looking for a money line first period bet, I would definitely be laying some juice on the Caps to be carrying a lead after one. I'm liking that as a free bet for you guys. I don't think Montreal can get it done tonight, but hey, that's why they play the game.
Well, Daryl McKay says that he's a diehard Habs fan and he likes the over. When you look at these guys head to head, over the last 10 games, the over has cashed 3. The over has cashed 6 times, 3 unders, 1 push. They faced each other 3 times this year. The Caps won the first meeting back on Halloween 6-3. Next one in December 4-2. And then the Canadiens pulled one out in January 3-2 in overtime. Monumental feat ahead of Montreal. I think a lot of this has to do with, are the Caps focused, right? For intents and purposes, the Caps should fucking walk, right? Montreal it's a bubble team. It's a cusp team. Even them, they didn't, it's not like they were like St. Louis and got on some fucking crazy heater to get into the playoffs. They played serviceably. They played well, but they had their destiny in their hands and they lose to fucking Chicago in game 81 when they could have wrapped it up, right there with Columbus. So it's definitely going to be an interesting series. I do think the Habs can pull one out, but if I'm putting any of my money on it, it's got to be some pizza money.
It looks like Logan Thompson is getting the nod, just from what a new report that I've been seeing. As expected, he should be playing and he should be good to go, because they got a couple good goalies that they could pick from. But Logan Thompson is definitely a big name in this game. And if he plays like he has all season, it's going to make it very difficult for Montreal to, score a couple goals.
Irish King 97, he says Washington money line plus an OV ATG is pure money. I don't see how you could ever put, the grade 8, how you can keep him off the score sheet, especially when the over, goals are scored in these head to head. So, keep an eye on that. Irish King likes that. Any player props outside of Ovi that you like looking at this game? Yes,
I do like Thompson on the under saves. Montreal's done a terrible job of getting pucks to the net recently. Right now it's at 22.5, and the money is coming in on the under on that. I would expect Montreal to want to get a lot of rubber to them, but they just haven't over their last several games when it's mattered the most. They mustered 22 shots against Carolina, 21 against Chicago, 15 against Toronto, 22. Like, they're barely getting 22 shots a game, and this save total is at 22. And I would have to expect that at least 1 or 2 of them does get by him. So I do like the under save prop on Logan Thompson.
All right, let's move to our second game, too, that we have going on tonight. We got the Blues and the Jets, 7:30 over on ESPN2. It was a whiteout in Winnipeg, but it really was a tale of 2 games in this one. Winnipeg goes up 1-0 on the series. The Blues led this game 3-2 going into the third, but then all the success that they found in the first 2 periods, they just gave up on, man. I don't know if I'm underselling a Winnipeg effort in the third, or if St. Louis just tried to not lose the game. They had a tremendous forecheck going for the first two periods. Hellebuck didn't answer any of the doubts that people have about him being, an amazing playoff goalie. But it just seems like the St. Louis forecheck, it was just dump and change, fresh legs on the ice. Let's just survive this. And it came back to bite him in the ass, and it bit him in the ass by the big dogs over in Winnipeg. Kyle Connor with the 1T GWG coming from Scheifele. Scheifele had 3 points. Connor had 3 points. Iafallo had the game-tying goal. What do you foresee, the effort-wise in Winnipeg for Game 2 tonight?
I think you need to manage Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. And the way to do that is I think Jim Montgomery is going to have to do some different line matching in this game and have your defenders defend these guys better. Because let's face it, as good as Winnipeg is, their majority of scoring comes from these guys. And if you can stop them and shut them down or at least manage them, which they didn't in the third period, and look what happened. The Winnipeg Jets, they got hot, and they're a team that once they get a little bit of momentum, it usually turns into goals, which is one of the reasons why they're one of the best teams in the regular season. But Connor Hellebuck is probably feeling a little bit more pressure even in this game because he's the kind of guy that, is great all season long, and then he's nowhere to be found in the playoffs, just like he was last year. And you look at even the Four Nations, when it mattered the most, your best player needs to be probably your goaltender, and he wasn't when it mattered the most for Team USA. I don't know how much faith I have in Hellebuck to come in and steal this series, to really get this series over and done with quick. I think St. Louis has definitely got the work cut out for them, but they got to manage the puck better. They've been going these high flips out of their end, which has been turning the puck over in the neutral zone and going back the other way. You got to manage the puck better. You got to get more rubber to them, and you got to find a way to get to the net and, bang in that greasy one because they're a good team. Winnipeg's a good team. Don't get me wrong. So you're going to have to outwork the shit out of them. Right now, the save prop line on Hellebuck is 20.5, and it's minus 140. So the money's definitely suggesting that St. Louis comes out with a little bit more hop than they did in Game 1 as far as getting pucks to the net. And I think they have to. And the other reason is St. Louis Blues, they haven't been in the playoffs in a bit, right? So that Game 1 is usually won. You get your feet wet. Oh, the water's not as cold as I thought. And now you get warm. And then the comfort's going to start setting in. If St. Louis wants to make this a long series, they're definitely going to have to get the split here on the road.
Well, I mean, if you just look at the shot totals in this game, I mean, the Blues only mustered 17 shots on goal. In that third period, they only had fucking 2. How you have the lead in the third period and only put 2 shots on goal, it's not the recipe for success. But I mean, listen, if I'm going to give anybody some credit here, I'm going to give, Montgomery some credit behind the bench, on St. Louis. Whatever his second period intermission conversation was with these boys, it didn't fucking work. It didn't work at all. Whatever their game plan was shit. So there's got to be adjustments made. I know he's the type of coach that will make those adjustments. I think we're in store for a real interesting, Game 2 here. But, when you start talking about, your Game 1s versus your Game 2s, is a different kind of desperation when you're down 1-0, right? I mean, I don't know what the exact percentage is if you go down 2-0, in a series, but it ain't fucking good for you. So you come out with a different sort of energy and you really try and steal one on the road here. And especially for a goalie that you saw you could get to, they had a game plan in shooting against Hellebuck in the 3 goals that they had. They were getting this guy up high. Let's go up high, So, I think they need to stick to their game plan. I think they could pull out, and upsetting this, but when you go against that high flying power, offense in Winnipeg, I mean, it's not guaranteed, brother.
It's definitely not. And The Blues, I thought, gave Winnipeg too many opportunities on the power play, so they're going to have to manage that and stay out of the box. They did give up a power play goal, but St. Louis had 2 power play goals in this one. So if the way you draw penalties is by moving your feet. So if St. Louis gets the puck deep and they have a relentless forecheck and they're finishing their checks, next thing you know, Winnipeg's going to be on their heels. They're going to be chasing. They're going to be reaching. You're going to be stepping on their stick, taking penalties. So St. Louis has definitely got to have a better effort. And, they look forward to keeping their power play hot if they can do that. So it's definitely almost a must win for St. Louis in this game. You don't want to go back home down 2-0 and then you really got your back up against the wall. But these are professionals. These guys know how to play the game. They're able to put that emotional shit aside and focus on the game and, not what's going to happen tomorrow or the next time we see these guys at home. So I think if I'm Jim Montgomery, you need to find a way to shut down the Scheifele line. And if you do that, you're going to be in this thing. Simple as that. I mean, it's not that simple because these guys are fucking great. But there's enough video out there. I'm sure they've done a lot of video on this line and how to stop them and, what they're doing. They change speeds often, which reverses the flow of traffic, and they catch the high guy. And then once the puck gets into the middle, it often goes to the walls where, Scheifele or Connor is for the one-timer. So the D need to be more alert. They got to have their head on a level. They got to. Otherwise, this series is going to be over.
I don't know how many different platforms are out there with a hits line that you can look at here. But St. Louis was throwing the body out there, man. Like they were registering hits. And I just had it, but I lost it. Who the fuck was it? St. Louis captain. Name escapes me.
Shen.
Right. I think Braden Shen had 7 hits registered in game 1. It was either 7 or 8. So whatever his line is at tonight, maybe take a look at the over there. But my man was out there. You want to talk about a captain that's leading by example. He was out there. He was throwing the body, and that's what the playoffs is. Playoff. You don't. Look at the goddamn Devils. We lost 3 players. In game 1. I mean, you want to hurt your opponent. You want to make sure that they feel it. You want to dump it in there, and you want them to be afraid to retrieve that puck. So I do think St. Louis is going to respond with a big effort tonight, and potentially steal one on the road. All right, moving on to game 3. We got game 2 against the Avs and the Stars, 9:30 on ESPN. Colorado took game 1. Is anybody surprised that Nate Dogg had 3 points in this one? The Stars offense I can't say it was a weird game watching this, right? Because Dallas outchanced Colorado 16-13, right? As far as scoring chances go. But just watching Colorado, zip around this ice, it was just like Dallas was stuck in neutral the entire time, but they did have chances. I mean, Colorado's not a very defensive team. They're all about that. But I mean, Blackwood stole one here. Mackenzie Blackwood was fucking phenomenal. The chance there, just shut the door. How do you think game 2 is going to shape out?
Well, first and foremost, Colorado, in my opinion, didn't deserve to win this game. You're 100% right. Blackwood was phenomenal. As good as Colorado was as zone time and possession time and, cycling the puck and really putting it to the Stars, I think Blackwood stood on his head, and that was the difference in this one. I don't think that game was a 5-1 game. I think Blackwood is going to have to continue to be that good because Stars are going to have to not change a lot, but they're definitely going to have to limit time and space to Nathan McKinnon. And Cale McCarr, they did a good job of monitoring him, I thought, because he had about 17 shots on net, but none of them hit it because guys were in lanes. They were checking him quick, and that's what you're going to have to do. You can't give Cale McCarr a lot of time because he will make you pay, and we all know that. So interestingly enough, this was a max bet winner for us and the VIPs for all the subscribers for the NHL Ylose channel. We did have Blackwood the over on the saves. It just got there, but today there's no pictures on the scorecards. It's either you win or you lose, and we won it. So members cashed out. We went 2-0 on max bets this weekend, Bernsey. So the VIP subscribers are definitely, counting their change this morning from a big weekend. So definitely like to see Dallas bounce back here after, not a great effort, I thought, but I think the Stars are going to do a better job at continuing to get pucks to Blackwood. They do average over 30 shots on goal at home this season. So, to see them with only 24 or 23 or whatever it was a little surprising for me. I think we see a little bit of a different Dallas team tonight. And you look at some of the Colorado goals, they were just terrible goals, like kicked in while the guy's falling.
But that's what the playoffs are, man.
That's the way it works. But that's not sustainable long-term either. Like, you're not going to get those bounces every night. So eventually I'm sure Dallas, did some video and saw like, wow, okay, guys, this wasn't as bad as we thought. Look how this went in. But here's some things we need to change. We got to manage the puck better. And, it's going to be tough for Colorado to come in and steal 2 on the road. It's a tough thing to do. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Now I'm looking across the prop lines here, and I'm seeing some juiced lines. I was looking at the Makar assist line, over a half an assist. He's had an apple in every game this year against Dallas, and 8 in the last 10, or 80% in the last 10 games. That's cashed. So I know it's a 185, but maybe put that together with something else that you see out there. Another thing that I saw, and you tell me how you feel about this guy. Mason Marchment over 1.5 shots on goal, right? Was at a nice line at -120. 70% that's cashed over the last 10 games, and every game against Chicago, 3 times, or in the last 3 games, he's gone over that. What do you think about Marchment's effort tonight?
With Nate Robertson being week to week, they're going to be leaning on Marchment a lot more. He's going to be getting more minutes, and I think he deserves them. I think this is a guy that put together a pretty good season for the Stars, and he's definitely an offensive threat. So I can see him ripping the biscuit a little bit more tonight. I think that's going to be kind of the motto going into this game for the Dallas Stars, is to get the puck to the net. We just saw it happen to us where shit happens and they score, but we got to get it to the net for that to happen. So I think we're going to see a lot more shots tonight than we typically do. So I'm 100% supporting the Mason Marchment shot prop.
All right, moving on to the last game tonight. We got the Oilers versus the Kings out in LA, 10 p.m. on ESPN2. When we previewed this matchup, I understand the Oilers have had the Kings number over the last, this is the 4th time that they're going to see each other in the playoffs. And the Oilers have taken them down every single time, but this just doesn't feel like the same kind of Oilers team. And this doesn't feel like the same LA team. I mean, we're talking against offense versus defense. How do you see game 1, which tends to be a little bit of a slower pace sometimes, a little bit of a feeling out? What do you see going on in LA tonight?
So a couple things with LA. LA's played a much different style game than they did last year. Last year, they were going for more of that 1-2-2 and the trapping kind of game. And they were hoping that defense would kind of win championships kind of mentality. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, you still need to generate offense. And when you don't forecheck and you're more in the setup to defend in the neutral zone to force the turnovers and then try to commit to your offense, it's a lot harder to do. And especially with, it's the NHL. These guys are the best of the best. So this year they changed that and they went to a high power offense and a high intensity forecheck. And it's really paid off. Like, you look at how good the Kings were this year, and their record at home is 31-6-4. Like, that's outstanding to be that good at home. It's really interesting on how some teams can be so good at home. And that's what the Kings were this year. I definitely am going to be playing this on the VIP card tonight, so I'm not going to say too much on what I feel about this game. But it's going to be a tough series for Edmonton, because usually with the injuries and stuff, they're already in like the 4th round of injuries in the postseason, and this is game 1 of round 1. So they definitely have some added pressure. And I actually think a lot of people are putting the money on LA to win this series and finally be able to beat the Oilers for the first time in a very long time. And, you know, an interesting story here is Jeff Skinner, his first playoff game, and he might be getting scratched. So, you know, you got to feel for the guy. He's been in the league forever with Buffalo. And, you know, I think he's going to get in the lineup. I do. But I was listening to NHL radio this morning, and they were talking about him. How, like, he's played in Buffalo for, I don't know, 10 years or whatever, and he's never seen a playoff game. And now he gets the chance to finally get in the playoff game, and they're not sure if he's going to be in the lineup or not. So kind of a good story for him. That must be a little bit of a relief to know that you're finally going to get to a postseason game. Kind of funny. So, and you know what? The Edmonton Oilers are really going to need him to produce like he did earlier on in his career with Buffalo if they want a fighting chance. Edmonton's definitely going to need that depth scoring. So, hey, you know what? Why not throw a little bit of prop money on the Oilers, Jeff Skinner, to maybe pick up a point tonight? We're probably going to get a pretty good discount because of, you know, his uncertainty. Right now, a half a point is plus 205. So, you know, if he can, this is a guy that can, if he gets hot, he can get hot and put up some numbers. He's done it before. Obviously, he hasn't had the season that he was hoping to have, but sometimes the playoffs bring out a whole new beast with everybody.
So, I mean, like when you're talking about Edmonton, it's easy to talk about, you know, Draisaitl with 106 points this year, you know, and McJesus over there with 100 points this year. You know, but we talked about it in the preview, you know, like it's got to be more than those two guys. And not to say that those two guys, you know, can't steal you a game 1 victory or steal you a fucking series. But I mean, Edmonton has to be more than just those two. You know, and it's the Kings' top line. It's nothing to really just like look at this team and just say like, oh, you know, it's just a defensive team. They can't put the puck in the net. You know, Adrian Kempe had 35 goals this year and 78 points. You know, the ageless Kopitar put up 67 points. You know, Kevin Fiala with a breakout 35 goals. You know, so they're LA has their kind of offense. You know, and Kempe loves playing against Edmonton. You know, he's averaged 4.75 shots per game against Edmonton this season, excuse me. You know, so I mean, his shot prop sitting at 2.5 right there, you know, at minus 145. You know, I mean, it's easy to sit here and look at McDavid, and it's easy to sit here and look at Draisaitl, you know, and take them on a juice line and try and parlay something together. But, you know, you got to dig a little bit deeper if you're looking for a little bit more of that value. You know, Darcy Kemper's come out, you know, this year since picking him up from Washington. You know, he's got a 2.22 goals against average. Get it on the rails here, buddy. A 924 save percentage. You know, so this is not going to be just. I could see this entire series being 1-goal games. You know, back and forth. You know, trading victory for victory here. You know, it'll be definitely worth watching, worth staying up. You know, if you're on East Coast time. You know, watching these guys duke it out. But, you know, at the end of the day, like we said in the preview, you know, we do think that LA brings this series home. All right. So those are the 4 games that we have on tap. I think we have 4 games on the schedule for tomorrow as well. Unfortunately, the Devils will be playing game 2. Max, I know all day long if you want to minus 400. But, you know, that'll do it for us over here today. Make sure you guys get over to ylose.com. You know, we are your newest podcast, Puck You, you know, but we have we assembled a phenomenal team. We got NBA player performance dropping live later on this afternoon with J.A. Cavalier, the Shark, the prop master, Luke Shuey. Don't miss out on Coach Rick, his quick pick show that airs daily. Neil Mackensoccer, and of course, the Canadian Bacon. Les Victorie. Les, any closing remarks for the guys?
Still get the playoff package for $99. It is posted in the Telegram. The link, I'm sure, will be in the bio of this page. So go check that out. Get over there. We had 2-0 max bet winners. We're definitely going to be increasing our sizing as the playoffs go on. I think there's a lot of value and a lot of money to be made here. So get over to the Telegram. $99 gets you every pick I make, long bets, short bets, parlay bets, and everything in between.
All right, guys. He is the Canadian Bacon Less Victory. I am Mike Burns for Puck U for the entire Ylose team. We'll catch you back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Till then, enjoy the games tonight. Stay well, stay safe. See you tomorrow.
Cut my life